So, 2019 was an exceptional year for movies, and it's honestly a nice reminder that film is still alive and is possibly getting better than ever. Audiences are getting smarter and are demanding more thoughtful and skillfully crafted films. And even though, yes, of course, there are still movies out there that are just cash grabs and don't require a brain to watch, 2019 didn't fail to deliver. So here's my list of my favorite movies from 2019. And remember that I didn't watch every single movie from that year, and also, warning, this is my opinion. Before I get to my top 10, here are my honorable mentions. John Wick 3, Parabellum. Top-notch fight sequences, beautiful production design, and an absolutely hardcore knife fight that is one of the best scenes in the entire series. And of course, Keanu Reeves. Trust me, I love this guy to death, but dear God, the less he says, the better.
Good to see you too.
Midsommar. This movie is bonkers, but it captures grief and mourning in a very cinematic way. It's unsettling, funny, and disturbing as hell at some times. The number one thing I was raving about this movie the most after I watched it was the cinematography. It definitely deserved a nomination at the Oscars. There's a scene in this movie where I swear they made a drone do a front flip for a certain shot. Still to this day, I don't know how they managed to do it. Aladdin. Okay, before you start complaining, I had to include this because I went into the theater with low expectations after hearing the bad reviews, but actually really enjoyed it. The lead actor is very likable and talented, and Will Smith is all in. The worst thing it had going for it was just too goofy. Joker. Very different from everything else, but knows what it wants to be and does it uniquely. The cinematography is gorgeous, and the acting from Joaquin Phoenix is, of course, superb. The biggest problem I had with this movie was the climax scene. Yeah, you know what scene I'm talking about. It just felt very off from the rest of the film. It felt to me that Joaquin Phoenix and Robert De Niro were doing a rehearsal or something. I just wasn't buying it. El Camino. I'm not a huge Breaking Bad fan, but this was very well done. Suspenseful, emotional, and a great performance from Aaron Paul. Not much else to say. Marriage Story. This movie is very tough to watch and made me frustrated on so many levels. Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson are powerhouses, and the screenplay is so rich with dialogue. The only thing that didn't hit home with me was their son, who they are fighting over the entire film. But the son is such a little brat that I didn't care for him, which didn't motivate me to connect with the parents. Knives Out. Clever, funny, entertaining, and enjoyable. Everything that The Last Jedi isn't. Knives Out is so smart and fun that it feels like a family legend your parents let you in on. I was invested in all of the characters and genuinely wanted to find out what really happened. Plus, the ending shot of the film is priceless. Uncut Gems. Adam Sandler. His best performance to date. Unbelievably good in this. The editing is non-stop, and this movie will give you more anxiety and more frustration than any sporting event or presidential election combined. Okay, and now for the top 10 movies. Just Mercy. This movie is powerful, thanks to incredible performances from Michael B. Jordan and Jamie Foxx, and an incredible direction from director Destin Daniel Cretton. I was invested in this moving story and desperately cared for its characters. The acting is natural, the pacing is perfect, and it has so many opportunities to cross the line of being predictable or cheesy, but it never ever does. 1917. The fact that this movie was filmed to appear as one shot is the main reason it was so impactful to me. As a filmmaker myself, I know what goes into the process of making a movie, and what they did here is truly remarkable. I'm not sure if I would have liked it as much if I wasn't a filmmaker though. The screenplay was lacking in a lot of areas, and I was honestly surprised it was nominated for Best Original Screenplay. However, the cinematography is gorgeous, the sound editing is immersive, and the direction is spot on. Little Women. I absolutely adored this freaking movie. I liked it a lot more than Lady Bird, and am and forever will be mind blown that Greta Gerwig wasn't nominated for Best Director. Like, what is seriously up with you, Academy? This movie is fun, it's witty, it's heartwarming. Every single character is so alive and likable. There was never a moment that felt like this movie was forcing me to like these characters or justify women. It was just lovely and authentic and genuinely likable. One minor thing that stood out to me, however, was the scene where Timothée Chalamet's character confesses his love for Saoirse Ronan's character on the hillside. The editing was just very choppy, and it was cutting across the 180-degree rule, like they were jumping between two different takes or something. That was the only moment I was just taken out of the film. The King. Speaking of Timothée Chalamet, why isn't this movie being talked about more? It is seriously awesome. I am a huge fan of Shakespeare, so it was so cool to see a new take on the story of Henry V. I think Timothée Chalamet's performance in this is what really seals the deal, as well as Joel Edgerton, who is always so committed to every role he plays. The cinematography is brutally good, the tone of the film is addicting, and can we please talk about Robert Pattinson in this? He only has like 3 scenes, but totally steals the show from Timothée Chalamet.
Giant balls with a tiny cock.
Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Hold your horses, fanboys, let me explain. I know a ton of people were upset with how this trilogy came to an end and how they brought back Palpatine, and I can somewhat agree. However, as a movie, it is so good. The characters are likable as ever, and the action sequences are gorgeous. The scene where Rey and Kylo Ren challenge each other's force powers on the ship flying away was literally jaw-dropping, and I seriously mean literally. I was sitting in the theater with my mouth open. It's fun, it's emotional, and it's the best they could do to fix the train wreck Rian Johnson caused. The connection between Rey and Kylo Ren is definitely what saved this movie, and the scene with Kylo Ren and Han Solo is heartbreaking. There are still some things I would have done differently, and it did feel rushed in the second half, but that's why I'm keeping my fingers crossed for an extended director's cut. Ad Astra. This was definitely one of the movies that no one talked about. You would think that they only cast Brad Pitt in this for star power, but he is seriously good in this, better than even Once Upon a Time in Hollywood if you ask me. Yes, it's slow and it's different from other space movies, but it's raw, it's very emotional, and it's human. The space car chase scene on the moon is breathtaking, and the mystery of the film keeps you engaged. I love the mix of the visual effects with the score, and I love the message of the movie, how all we ever really need is sometimes right in front of us. Parasite. Yes, I know, typical, the best picture winner, but the hype is true, folks. This is a banger. I went in watching this movie without knowing anything about it. Is it a horror? Is it a slasher? A psychological thriller? Who knows? All I know is that I was hooked from the beginning to the end. You'll gasp, you'll laugh, you'll squeal. Just when you think you have this movie figured out, it will flip it upside down. The acting is superb, the direction couldn't be any more perfect, and the editing is impressive. Those who want to be editors should study this film. The one minor problem I had with this movie was the very ending of it. I thought it could have been executed a bit better and wasn't entirely necessary. Ford versus Ferrari. I do not understand the beef people have with this film. Is it because it's another movie about white men? I mean, so was Joker. I feel like most people who complain about this movie being nominated for Best Picture didn't even see the film, because I was blown away, folks. This movie is exciting, it's thrilling, it is just a ball of energy with some of the most masterful editing and cinematography of cars racing that I have ever witnessed. Just imagining myself having to shoot and edit this movie is a nightmare. I rooted for the characters every step of the way and was afraid to blink because I didn't want to miss any moment of what was happening. There's never a scene that slows down this movie. Every single one is essential and necessary to the story. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'll say what I've been telling everyone about this movie. This is just pure cinema. After watching this movie, I felt such a relief that there are still films being made like this. It was such a breath of fresh air. This movie gets away with having scenes that don't necessarily progress the story in any manner, but is more than welcome to be there. I had no problem watching Brad Pitt cruise around LA for 10 minutes straight. It just felt right for some reason. The production design gives you a glimpse of the past and the behind-the-scene looks of old film productions. And yes, I most likely love this film more than others because I am an actor and a filmmaker. I never related to Leo more than whenever he forgot his line on set and then threw a fit about it in his trailer. Like, man, that is gold.
Line? Cut! Embarrass yourself like that!
The Lighthouse. Crazy? Weird? Confusing? Bet. A lot of my friends don't understand why or how this is my #1 favorite, but I guess this is proof that everyone has their individual taste. I have seen this movie twice and feel like I can watch it again and again. It is masterfully made, so much so that I promise it will hold up many, many years from now. Everything about this movie is so skillfully done that it looks as if it was actually made in the 1930s. The atmosphere of this film is everything. The sound of the waves hitting the shore, the squawks of the seagulls, the blast of the lighthouse horn, and of course the black and white cinematography and the square aspect ratio. Everything from the writing, the dialogue, the acting, the sound, the production design, to the direction, the cinematography, and the editing makes this film so remarkable. I am dumbfounded that Willem Dafoe didn't win Best Supporting Actor for this film, let alone a nomination. I mean, come on, this man literally gave a monologue while being buried alive and having dirt fly in his mouth. By far, my favorite thing is the way these characters talk and the interactions between them. It keeps you in suspense and on the fence of what exactly you think about them. Also, there are moments in the film, especially the ending, that are presented in a way that leave it up to the audience to determine what is going on or what it means. I would think about this movie days after watching it and realize what certain scenes meant through its imagery, or I would tie two things together after considering what was said or what had happened.
Let Neptune strike ye dead, Winslow!
Robert Pattinson is on a roll, and I am so excited to see what Robert Eggers does next.
All right, have it your way.